Hi there, I'm Naomi Kinsman. I am an author and the founder of Society of Young Inklings. If you've been watching the last couple tries, we were having a hard time connecting to Facebook. This is my third try, which is a little ironic because as you're thinking about stories, the number 3 is always a really good number to help you structure your plot. But anyway, we are talking today not about plot, but about villains and about how to use them in our plots. Now, before we get into that topic, I want to play a quick game of choices with you. This is one of my favorite games, and I just recently learned that there is a good reason why my brain loves this game so much, and yours probably does too. The thing is that in our world, there's so much information, there's so much out there that's thrown at us all the time. And when we play games that offer us just 2 choices, it organizes our thinking to just one thing or another. All we have to do is choose between 2 choices. And when we're thinking only of 2 choices, we can come up with lots of other ideas, actually. It unlocks our creativity. So as we think about this thing or that thing, we choose, and then maybe we come up with something even better. So I would like for you to start to think about yourself right now. We're just going to play a quick game to get ourselves warmed up. So the first thing you're going to think about is, if you were to have a snack at this moment, would you choose a salty snack or a sweet snack? All right. And now that you've thought about that, which snack would you choose? Can you think of one that would fit perfectly in what you want? Or what if right now you left wherever you are? Don't leave because we want you to stay here. But let's say you did leave and you were to go out and do something. Would you want to go out to the forest or would you want to go to an art studio? Now, maybe neither of those 2 options is what you'd really want. So if you thought about those 2 things, often what will happen is a new idea will pop into your mind and say, oh, but actually what I'd really like to do is go to the roller skating rink or to an amusement park or anywhere else that comes into your imagination. All right, I'm going to give you 2 more choices, a little bit bigger choices this time. So the first one is, if you were to have a superpower today, would you want the superpower of being invisible or the superpower of being able to fly? All right, those are 2 kind of common superpowers. So now I'm going to give you a couple others that maybe you wouldn't think of right away. Would you rather be able to move things with your mind, or would you rather be able to listen to people's thoughts? All right, now you've thought about 4 different kinds of superpowers. I want you to think about, if you could choose any, what might you choose? It's interesting, isn't it, how our brains sort of fill in that gap of anything, and sometimes that overwhelming feeling of, oh, any option is possible, kind of overwhelms us for a second. And that's why sometimes giving ourselves an either or choice will get us a little closer to what we want to choose. Now, we're talking about villains today. And the reason I wanted to warm up with choices is because one of the important things with villains is to understand what our villains want. Now, it's easy to start with a villain who just wants to take over the world, or who wants to be powerful, or who wants lots of money just because. But if we have a character like that in a story, often they feel flimsy. They don't really carry their weight very long in the story. At first, they might be interesting and evil and intriguing, but as the story goes along, it just starts to feel weak. We're not really sure what to do with that character or why they're so motivated to do all the things that they do. So one way to think about that is to think about, what does this person really want? And why do they want it? Now, before we try to put ourselves into someone else's shoes who's very different from ourselves, it's easier to start with ourselves. So when you're trying to think of something that you want, you could think really near term. So we were just talking about today, what might I want? What kind of snack might I want today? What kind of adventure might I want today? So if you were going to think of something that you want today, what would that be? What would you really like to have happen today? Is there something coming later on in your day that you really hope will arrive, or maybe something you're hoping will happen but you're not sure? For me, today I am hoping that I'll have some time to get outside and go for a run. It would be really fun to just get outside after work and have a nice chance to breathe some fresh air, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to finish up all the things I'm doing today in time to get outside before it turns dark. That's just a little desire. When we want to make our desires a little bigger, we can think in terms of a week. So what do you want this week? Maybe this week you want to finish planning something Maybe by the end of the week, you want to have planned a really exciting vacation for your weekend. Not even a vacation, but just a little expedition on your Saturday or Sunday. Or maybe this week you want to achieve something. You want to finish a project. Actually, this week I'm working on finishing my novel. So I'm hoping that by Friday I have a draft of a novel, which is kind of a big hope. So you could think in terms of week, or you could think in terms of month. What do you want this month? This month, if you celebrate Christmas, it's just about time for Christmas. So you might already be thinking about things you might hope for or things you might hope to give to others. Or you might think in terms of your year. What do you want to achieve this year? What do you want to find this year? What do you want to discover this year? What do you want to learn this year? Or the next one up from a year is probably the one that we're thinking about with our villains, as soon as possible. Now, I'm not going to say, what do you want someday? Because if I say someday, that could be 50 years into the future, and that's too far away to really grasp. We want something as soon as possible, maybe within the next 6 months, maybe within the next year, but it's something our heart is burning for. So if you're a writer, maybe it's to put your writing out there and have somebody read it. Or if you are an athlete, maybe it's to win a race, or to win a game, or to achieve some other kind of athletic feat. Or if you are some kind of visual artist, maybe you're creating something and you want to have finished it and you want to show it to someone. There's lots of different things that you might want as soon as possible, something that you would commit to and work hard for. And that's the kind of thing we're looking for our villains. Now, let's think about the kinds of villains that we're talking about. Now, I'm using the word villain. It sounds a little bit showy or dramatic. When we think of villains, when I think of villains, I think of maybe Count Olaf from A Series of Unfortunate Events, sort of some sort of typical villain who's a little bit larger than life. He Who Must Not Be Named in the Harry Potter series, another great villain. Now let's think about those two for a second. Count Olaf, if you read the books, really wants money. So it feels like he's just greedy throughout the story. But if you get to know him a little bit, you realize that he's an out-of-work actor. He doesn't really have everything that he wants in terms of having his troupe be able to go out and do the kinds of showy productions that he would like to do. And so part of what he wants is to feel like he is a successful actor, and money is important to him, but it's also putting on a great show and having people believe his acting. So there's a little bit more to him than just the greed. Or He Who Must Not Be Named wants to overtake the world. He wants world domination, power, but it's also clear as he goes along in the story that what he really wants is to overcome death. He doesn't want to ever have to die. And to him, that is weakness. That's the last weakness he wants to overcome. And so his character becomes more interesting as he seeks this thing he wants so badly. Now, we're going to think about the kinds of the villains that you might have in your story, not necessarily larger than life villains. Maybe you have one of those, and those are really fun to play with, but maybe you don't have a character who's like that. You might also have an authority figure who serves as a villain in your story. Well, how does that happen? An authority is supposed to protect us, right? Or maybe. So an authority figure in a story can be the person who is in your character's way, keeping them from getting the thing that they are trying to achieve, putting rules in their way, putting guidelines and boundaries. So they're the person who's maybe trying to keep the character safe, and that's keeping the character from doing the thing that they dream of doing, or at least they perceive that that character's in their way. And so for that story, that character is a villain. Or sometimes even it can be a guardian. It can be a friend sometimes. And of course it can be a competitor. So there's lots of different people who you can put into that villain role. And as you think about them and you think about why do they want this opposite thing than what my character wants, you can start to try to understand who they are, why they're doing what they're doing, and what lengths they will go to in order to achieve their goal. And by using a person as opposed to, say, just an obstacle that's a big goal for your character, you give your character someone to struggle against. And often, if you're feeling like your story doesn't have enough heft, it's not pulling you through the story, it doesn't have enough tension or suspense, it might help you to put someone in the character's way who becomes an obstacle or who plays this villain role, even if they're not a Count Olaf or a He Who Must Not Be Named. Today's downloadable is just one sheet. It's a quick page that's called My Sinister Scheme. Again, a little larger than life, but the page itself will take you through some questions that will work for any kind of villain or obstacle character. First question is, what does your character want? So you're just filling it out as that character. I want because. Now, instead of just saying because I want it, it's important to think about what is the reason, what in your past maybe caused you to want this thing? What did you not get that you wanted so badly so that now you really, really want this thing to happen? The next question is, to get this, I will. What will you do in order to get the thing that you want so badly? Remember, you're playing the role of this villain. You're trying to slip yourself into his or her shoes. Who might get in your way? Who are the people who are going to get in your way? And in this case, probably the main character is one of those people that's in the villain's way. The next question, I'll get around them by. Here's a place to put a plan in and possibly add a new scene or two to your story. What is this villain or obstacle character going to do or put in the way of your character to create more suspense and tension in the story? And then the last bit is a little bit, it's worded in a fun way. When my dastardly deed is done, I will have. Now, maybe it's not a dastardly deed. Maybe it's just your character getting the thing that they want. But when they get it, what is it going to look like? It's interesting to think about wanting power, but when you think about what will that really look like, how, where will I live? What will I be doing? What will my power allow me to achieve? Then you're starting to really understand this character and see what they picture in their minds. So I want you to think about a villain character for your story if you haven't already, and think about, is there a way I could use a character who gets in my main character's way to add more suspense or tension to this story? And like we've been talking about over the past few weeks, if you're writing a story, you can always submit it for our Inklings Book Contest. We're going to be opening up the application window in January, so you can check back at Young Inklings at that time, and we'll definitely be letting you know here on our Facebook Lives. And I wanted to just say a quick thing to those of you who are watching today. Today is actually Giving Tuesday. It's an important day where we think about how we can support the nonprofits that are giving and doing important things in the world. And there's so many of them that you can look at and support with your gifts and also with your time, with your volunteer hours. Young Inklings is a nonprofit, and our mission is to help young writers like you. And we want to reach out and touch people's lives who we have not connected with yet. So there's a couple ways that you could support us today. There's definitely ways to give through our giving links, and we'll definitely post those in our feed. But you can also share the word about Young Inklings, and especially sharing our Facebook Live videos with others. This is a free way for us to connect with young writers everywhere, with educators, with authors and illustrators. And if you know someone who you think should know about us, we'd be so grateful if you would share this video, share some of the videos in our feed with those people who you think would really enjoy them. And please let people know about our Inklings Book Contest. We definitely want to reach lots of new writers in many communities across the country this year with that contest. So please share the word. We are so grateful for all the ways that you support our work and the many nonprofits in your own communities that are doing important work as well. And that is it for today. We will be back next week on Tuesday at 2:30 with another live session helping you with your writing. Until then, see you later.